1.5 million barrels per day.
I think the production number from OPEC, it was referring to average production last month. But if you go by the statement made by the by the NNPC GMD, Mr. Maikanti Barrow, he said that we are now back at 2 million barrels per day, and that is expected given that the Bonga oil field, which is its own production, could have the capacity to produce up to 200,000 barrels per day, definitely. So I think we're around 2 million barrels per day with the capacity to go as far as 2.2 before the end of this month. And even in 2018, that is looking very positive for the industry as long as we have peace and security in the Niger Delta region. We have some major fields coming on stream by next year. The Total Ejina project should be launched by then. That should add around 200,000 barrels per day to Nigeria's production volume. So on production volume, I think it's a bit positive for us now if we continue to have peace in the Niger Delta.
Okay. Now, is there a possibility that Nigeria may be excluded, or rather may be included on the production output cut if perhaps OPEC now decides to extend this production cut? Don't forget, Nigeria was excluded in the first place. And so if our production is increasing, they might probably consider that.
It could be a consideration, right? But I wouldn't say it would be fair to make Nigeria start cutting our production volumes now, because we are just getting back to our peak. We've been producing less than our capacity for more than a year now. We had this issue in data around February 2016, and it has lasted up till now. So now that we are getting back to the peak level, we shouldn't be given that responsibility of rebalancing the oil market. I think the bigger producers, who have much more bigger foreign reserve, buffers, like Saudi Arabia, like Russia, they have to take the pain of cutting more than the smaller producers who are barely on their feet and struggling with a contracting economy.
Right. Now, in all of this, we can see that Nigeria really does not have, much control over what happens in the international oil market, and we can see the ding-dong activities going on there. Now, should Nigeria actually relax and say, okay, our production has gone up, then let's just relax? What is the way forward for Nigeria, considering what we are seeing in the international oil market?
Thank you for that question, Chimeze. Over the past 1 or 2 weeks, we've seen this optimism, both from the analyst community and the government circle as well, that we now have a rebound in the cyclical drivers of the business circle, oil production and oil prices. Then we should expect the economy to, go back to the path of growth that will be, fairly stable over the short to medium term. But like you mentioned, what's happening in the oil markets is not determined by Nigeria. There are too many variables that we cannot control there. So for the policymakers, they have to focus on the structural drivers of the economy, not the cyclical anchors, right? Oil will always be cyclical. It will be good sometimes, it will be bad sometimes. But what policymakers should do is to use this period of rebounding oil earnings, right, to make the structural changes needed for us to have a sustainable growth, over the long term. That'd be very important for the federal government. We shouldn't get carried away with the rebound in the oil market.
Okay. Now, when you were talking initially, you talked about some of the factors driving the global oil market. You mentioned the U.S. shale increase, Libya production increase, and of course the pricing. How do you think OPEC members should begin to deal with this, particularly with the U.S.?
At this point, they have to be humble enough to accept that they're no longer the price setter. The dynamics have changed completely, right? There are now more people on the table to deal with, and recognizing the fact that they're no longer price setters should actually influence their domestic policy making as well. They have to decouple the oil market from their domestic economic variables, from their fiscal policy, from their monetary policy. Well, last week we had the president of Total, doing an interview on Bloomberg, and he did mention that over the long term, shale producers cannot do it alone. They cannot supply all the energy requirements of the world. I do recognize that, but At the same time, domestic policymakers in these oil-producing countries have to accept that they cannot individually control prices again. So they have to, be more humble, fix the structural problems in their economy, and ensure that they are on the path of structurally driven growth, not cyclical, rebounding in the oil market.
Okay, now OPEC, of course, is preparing to meet. That should be May 25. Do you see them agreeing to actually extend this production cut?
I can say that with 100% certainty they're going to agree.
That is with the latest developments we have seen
in the market.
All right, thank you very much, Omotola Abimbola, Senior Investment Analyst at AfriInvest. Thank you very much for being with us. Well, Bosun, I guess you've been listening to this conversation with Omotola. Back to you now.
Yeah, yes, I do. A very interesting conversation. And of course, the world of oil is also very important. Part of the discussion, Abuja is waking up today to a very busy business day. The acting president, Professor Yomi Osinbajo, is now heading the third quarterly business forum at the Villa, where key ministers, including finance, national planning and budget, communications and others, briefing on the state of the economy and ease of doing business. That is one big business. So the president went out of town yesterday, back to London for treatment. But now the VP is kicking off on a business note very early, bright and early on Monday. The vice president, now the acting president Osinbajo, is now presiding over the third quarterly business forum, and that is taking place right now as we speak at the government level. This is setting the pace for a very business week and markets that we're looking into. When we come back after the break, we have a lot more to talk about. Of course, our guest in the Lagos studios, Bismarck Rawani, will bring us up to speed on the GDP, on the latest PMI's number, on outlook for inflation, as well as the currencies market, putting all of that together and giving us his views on where the economy goes from here.